Supervisor Murray. Councilman Namasino. Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Booski. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino.
Here.
Councilwoman King Sweeney. Receiver of taxes Donald X. Clayton.
Here. Please call for the public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a one- and one-half-story wood building, wood frame, one-family dwelling with attached garage, and remove all litter and debris from property involvement.
Yes, Supervisor, I believe there are people that would like to speak about this project.
Yes. Is it Louis? What is it?
Levitan. I'm here on the
Please
ballot
come
sheet.
forward, sir. State your name and address and who you represent.
Louis A. Levitan.
Please, we have microphones right here. Thank you.
I'm Louis A. Levitan of Knuckles, Kosinski and Elliott, LLP. We represent Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., not in individual capacity, facilities trustee for the RMAC Trust, series 2010-3. Well, we acquired the property by referee's deed on December 2nd, 2014. This is the property at 1357 South Barry Drive, Valley Street.
I believe that's a different project. That's further.
I believe, yeah, they all have the same number here, but there's different addresses.
Which address are you here?
I'm here for the Barry Drive address in Valley Street. It's third from the bottom.
Okay, let's start with the bold one.
Okay.
If you would step back, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is anyone here on the Bayfront Drive?
Yes. Hi, good morning.
Name and address and your relation to the property?
Sure. My name is Karen, R-I-N, Sidaris, S-I-D-A-R-I-S. I'm an attorney with the law office of Carol Fritz, located at 100 Moore Parkway, Hopewell, New York, 11788. We represent one of the property owners here in this matter. And I had a conference with the commissioner just before this hearing, and we have asked him just for a 30-day extension. If the town decides to demolish the property, we would like to do structural engineering there. I think that was agreeable to the commissioner, so that was our request today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sidaris. Is anybody else?
Yes. Just to not move forward with this hearing today. However, it'll probably take us 30 days to get everything in order. We were given that time. But my recommendation is to move forward today.
Okay, and sir, now, you could state your name and address on the record and your relation to this property.
My name is Douglas Wellbrock. My address is 9605 72nd Road, Foster, New York. And my great-great-grandfather built that house on Bayfront Drive in 1920 during the Depression. My 3 children legally own that house. I'm representing them here, and I would like to go forward and have the house demolished. It's at the point now where it's beyond repair. It's been 2 years that the other owner, supposedly, has never taken action to repair the house. There was $200,000 in insurance money to repair the house, and she refused to release it to allow us to repair the house. At this point, it's too far gone. I'm a plumbing and heating contractor. I have architects and engineers out there that first look at the house, but our hands were tied. And now at this point, I think it should be nothing.
All right, Mrs. Wilbur, thank you for coming in. And Ms. Sidaris as well. Commissioner Rodkamp, I know we have done this on a number of occasions where parties come forward at the last moment, but of course, the concerns for us as the town board of welfare and safety of our residents. So your recommendation is for the board to move forward on the authorization for demolition, but then that you would work with the parties and give them 30 days to do what they need to do.
That's correct.
Does anybody have any comments? Okay, does anybody else wish to be heard on this first Baldwin property, other than the...
Depending on your
Okay. If you would,
No, I speak nice and loud. Just we usually
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilwoman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Okay.
we had
So the order to demolish and remove has been entered. Commissioner Rodkins, if you could work with the parties, and we'll give a short, very short period of time, but of course our first concern is the safety of the residents. Thank you. Please call the next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove an in-ground pool and remove all litter and debris from property in Cedarhurst.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Supervisor, I move to close the public hearing and approve the petition.
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove an in-ground pool and remove all litter and debris from property in Uniondale.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion?
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove an in-ground pool and remove all litter and debris from property in Valley Stream.
Okay, is this the Valley Street property?
It's down farther.
Okay, all right. Does anybody wish to be heard on the application to demolish and remove from the property located at Hungry Harbor Road? May I have a motion?
Move that the hearing be closed and the petition approved.
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove an in-ground pool and remove all litter and debris from property in Valley Stream.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this property application? May I have a motion?
Move that the petition, move that the hearing be closed and the petition approved.
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove an in-ground pool and remove all litter and debris from property in Valley Stream.
Okay, Ms. Levinson, would you come forward and just tell us your name and your affiliation once again?
Sure.
Clear.
My name is Louis A. Levitan of Knuckles, Komasinski and Elliott, LLP, 565 Tapster Road, Suite 590, Elmsford, New York, 10523. And I represent Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., not in individual capacity, but solely as trustee for the RMAC Trust, Series 2010-3, who acquired the property by referee's deed on December 2nd, 2014, and said deed was recorded on December 11th, 2014. And from speaking with my client, we know that our client, the building inspector, the code violation inspector, came out to the property and told us what we had to do to make a temporary fix so that it's not a danger to the residents of their town anymore. And so what they did is they locked up the pool, they put plywood over the pool, and then covered that plywood with the tar as a temporary fix so it wouldn't be a danger in the present time. And what we were asking for right now is a short-term adjournment, perhaps 3 months, so that we could solicit bids and get the necessary permits to make a more permanent fix on the property. I mean, with the weather even right now, it would be very difficult to actually do anything else with the pool situation right now. So we asked for an adjournment, and we were just retained on this matter very recently as well.
Commissioner Rodkins?
Supervisor,
What's your feeling
this is,
on
they did because of the pool up, however, we have no idea if that is structurally sound, to be able to, if a kid ran across and jumped over the fence, if they're not gonna fall into the pool. So if they would like that extension, if they get a engineer's letter stating that it is built correctly, then I would have no issues giving up, but I still think we should proceed with the hearing today, just in case they don't follow through on their end.
So have the order entered, but work with Mr. Lebanon and Wells Fargo.
Well, yeah, you heard, well, again, Ms. Supervisor, we haven't even had notice this hearing. Neither notice of hearing. There was a notice originally sent on November 24, 2014. Before we even acquired the property, we didn't get that notice. And then the second notice, because of snow, that was sent on the 28th for this date, does not name our client in either notice. So the notices are even defective here.
I'm not sure about that, but
We can
Commissioner,
normal property search through the county clerk's office, and we got a listing of everyone that they showed as the property owners, and we tried to reach out to every one of those individuals as we always do.
well, why don't we do this? Why don't we enter the order? And Commissioner, as you do with any attorneys or individuals who do come forward, we certainly want to work with the new property owner. But would it be your recommendation again, as we have, like the other one, that we enter the order and that we work with the...
That's correct.
We will enter the order, I think my colleagues agree, but we will certainly sit down with you and work with you to the extent that we possibly can, knowing that that's our overarching concern.
So Supervisor, what's going to transpire is we will move a petition today, and that council will endeavor to get an engineer's letter. Within what period of time, Commissioner, should we do that?
I'll work with him afterwards because of the weather, we'll discuss it.
And that he won't execute any work, provided that the engineer's letter is sufficient, and we'll give them time to make the repairs in 90 days. Is that what you asked for?
Yes, 90 days.
Well, we're not going to put it 90 days, with all due respect. I just want to be concerned because we're not happy with the level of cover-up at this point, the plywood and everything. I think we should leave that to the discretion of the Commissioner of Buildings. But again, bottom line is...
Our client also, informed us that an inspector had come out to the property after that repairs were done and said that it looked sufficient as excuse me, for a lack of a better term, a Band-Aid approach to fix this for the time being.
But
So,
again, as the Commissioner said, we don't have an engineer to report to that effect.
yes,
Because we do that before we feel...
I understand.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this particular topic? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, move to close the hearing and approve the petition.
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Emerson. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Garden City, Merritt, Oceanside, Roosevelt, Seaford, and West Hempstead.
I don't think I have any speaking, so does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? Not, I have a motion.
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Emerson. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Levittown, Merritt, Roosevelt, Seaford, and Woodmere.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? May I have a motion?
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Emerson. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Come up soon.
Please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Elmont, Lynbrook, Roosevelt, Uniondale, and Woodmere.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? May I have a motion?
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Emerson. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman Keith Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding school bus stops in Louisville.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? May I have a motion? Move that proposed local law be adopted.
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman Keith Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding fire zones in Merritt.
Does anybody wish to be heard? May I have a motion?
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman Keith Sweeney.
Please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding administration and regulations of the procedures of the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter and Control Division.
Diane?
Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? Please come forward. Please come forward. Welcome to the town hall. And if you could have a seat and share your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. We're going to Blackwood, 165 Queen Street, down north. When you're talking about regulations, I'd like to know what the protocol and procedure is for adopting. I signed an adoption sheet in September. And I've been on waiting, they told me to book, yes, book, there was one that we did, that was one, I told you what.
Ma'am, are you, maybe we could talk to you if you have a specific issue. This is about the proposed law that's before us. Did you?
Well, I don't know the law, because the procedure is not, there is no procedure. I tried to build the tent to adopt the law, because I signed
Certainly
the
not.
adoption sheet
Certainly
3
not.
times.
What I would like for you to do is, Ms. Patrick, can you, I think we can speak to you separately. This is, right now, I don't want to keep you waiting, but this is specifically about a proposed new law. And so, that's why,
Which law? Now, maybe it's included in what I.
no, it's not.
I have several places to talk about.
Well, all right, can you tell me about this law? That's specifically now. We have a miscellaneous
So you're talking about
portion of the
regulations?
meeting as well.
You're talking about the regulations, correct?
If we're talking about a specific law that we are proposing.
Oh, that you are proposing.
Yes, and so if you want us to talk about this specific law right now, we'd be happy to hear from you.
But
If
they're
you
not.
have another issue,
They seem to change them. And they go along, when they want,
ma'am, I think what best, you clearly have an issue and we would like to help you.
they do very
Ms.
much.
Petrie, can you
Absolutely.
speak with, we would love to help you and I hope it gets resolved.
I hope so too, because I did go to your office and I get, not my problem. I said, I hope you're not talking to me, get married, because.
That would not be acceptable, ma'am. Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming down. Does anybody wish to be heard on the proposed law? Yes. Okay. Good morning. Could you give your name and address, please?
I am Madden, 243 Cherry Place, East Meadow.
Thank you.
My question is in regards to this law. When animals are redeemed, will that be considered an adoption or redemption? I'm trying to figure out how that ties into microchipping, and I think it's important to have these dogs and cats microchipped.
I believe this would be in the redemption category because the owner had been identified, so this was not a true stray. I'm saying that, yeah.
Okay, so does that mean the dog or cat will not be automatically microchipped at that redemption time?
If the owner wanted to pay for that, yes,
So it's
absolutely.
an
That's a
additional
different scenario from a true stray that we pick up or a dog or cat who was surrendered by their owner.
Right, no, it's different, it's just a matter of whether it'll be easy to identify once, you know.
Well, certainly we
lines
would
up.
want every dog and cat, obviously,
Microchips.
not only in the town, to be microchipped.
Okay, so the answer's no. All right, okay, thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be heard on this proposed law? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the proposed local law be adopted.
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Guzzi. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Please call the next hearing.
Proposed local law regarding licensing and regulations of taxi cabs and limousines.
Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? No, may I have a motion?
Yes, Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the proposed local law be adopted.
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Guzzi. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
Okay, please call the next petition.
Petition of Waterview Land Development LLC to rezone from Industrial District to CA-S Residence District in Highland Park.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Supervisor, members of the County Council. This is Peter Taxes, Town Attorney. My name is Albert D'Agostino, law firm of Irvin D'Agostino, PC, 107 South Central Avenue, Valley Stream, New York. As I believe you are aware, my firm represents the applicant. We were before the town board on July 8th of last year for a very extensive hearing. I recognize that there has been a change in the membership of the town council. Since then, I would move that the record of the prior hearing and the exhibits and all of the comments, both sides, be incorporated into the record of this hearing. I can be as lengthy or as brief as the supervisor wishes. I will say that we're back before you due to, in effect, an amendment on the original petition. And the amendment is rather simple. With respect to the off-street parking issue, as I recall, I think Councilman Udis had a number of questions on that back in July. I would point out that we had what is technically a lease for off-street parking, which we believe that the parking as originally provided, which did contain a surplus, was sufficient, but in trying to further address any questions or issues relative thereto, we have provided for an off-site lease. When I say off-site, let me explain that in greater detail.
Why don't you give a brief overview of the application itself? Do you have any council members?
Okay, so you wish me to
Mr.
address?
D'Agostino, I'm not going to censor you, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, no, I have no problem, I have no problem. And for those of you who work here, this is somewhat repetitive of what we heard last July. This is the application of Waterview Land Development LLC, which is a New York limited liability company with its principal office at 80 Waterfront Boulevard in Island Park. The subject premises, exclusive of the off-site lease, has a total area of 2.6 acres and is identified on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map as Section 43, Block 118, Lot 406 through 440, part of Lot 451 and all of Lot 452, along with a portion of the right-of-way known as Waterview Road, which is more particularly described by meets and bounds, and is next to the applicant's original petition and the supplemental petition as Exhibit A. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we have entered into a lease which is conditional upon the approval of the application, if it is to be approved, which provides for an additional area of 10,000 square feet, where we have provided 10 additional parking spaces, and there is an additional land bank area. That leased area fronts on Austin Boulevard, which is a county highway. There is 29.15 feet frontage on Austin Boulevard. The applicant is in the process of seeking to acquire, and hopefully acquiring the right-of-way from the town, and part of lot 451, which is owned by an entity of which the principal of the applicant is also a principal of that entity. The overall parcel is located at the intersection formed by Pettit Place and Waterview Road, with a frontage of approximately 754 feet on the south side of Waterview Road. It is bounded by Reynolds Channel to the south, including the easternmost 480 feet in length of the public right-of-way known as Waterview Road. The subject premises are currently zoned industrial, which, as the members of the town would know, is the most inclusive zone in terms of what is permitted. And that's according to the town of Hempstead zoning map. To the extent to which that portion of Waterview Road may be unzoned, the applicant is requesting that the zoning classification of that right-of-way, along with lots 406 to 440, part of lot 451 and 452, be rezoned CAS. With respect to the lease property, that is part of the overall complex, of which the principal of Waterview Associates is the primary principal of related entities which basically control and own the Riverview restaurant and the rather new shopping center, the King Cullen Shopping Center, and this really is conceptually an overall development which the principal of Waterview Associates, John Vitale, is the controlling member. The zoning uses of the surrounding properties are to the north of the subject premises across Waterview Avenue are the condominium units comprising the yacht club, which bounds Waterview Avenue on the north, is subject to restrictions which were created at the time that the yacht club was rezoned from Residence B to CA back in the 1980s, which specifically prohibit access onto Waterview Avenue and require a continuous, unbroken, and ungated fence along the entire length of the yacht club along Waterview Avenue. There is also a restaurant and a single-family dwelling, which are adjacent to the subject property. To the south of the subject premises is Reynolds Channel. To the east of the subject premises is a single-family residence zoned Residence B, and by, I'm pronouncing this, it's either Rec Lead or Rec Led Channel. The owner of that residence was present with his wife in July, Mr. and Mrs. Camarsano, and they enthusiastically spoke in favor of the application. And to the west of the subject premises is restaurant property, which is on industrial. The property which is the subject of this application is currently improved with 2 restaurant buildings, Patty McGee's and a Coyote Grill, and an old, obsolete, and deteriorating metal industrial building. The petitioner is seeking a change of zone to the CAS zone for the purpose of developing 86 residential units, which will be market value rental units to be located in 2 separate buildings. There will be 26 one-bedroom units of 809 square feet per unit and 62 bedroom units of 1,085 units each. There will be an exercise room, a laundry room, a community room with restrooms, and a car room in each building. Each unit will have a balcony. There will be boat slips available to tenants only, which cannot be signed or rented to non-residents. There will be an outdoor pool and a lounge area with a landscaped garden area. The applicant is proposing to provide 148 ground level parking spaces where 143 are required, which represents a 3.5% surplus over and above the town requirements of 5 spaces per unit. In addition to that, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're also providing for 10 additional spaces on the off-site leased area. Again, off-site really is part of what I would refer to as the overall complex, which Mr. Vitale is the principal of. And also on that leased area is an additional area which is going to be landscaped. Van service will be provided to and from the beach in neighboring Long Beach, clearly in better weather than we're having right now. The market for these rental apartments is anticipated to be young professionals who will utilize transit access to New York City and are seeking the suburban waterfront lifestyle, which will provide boating, a pool, and access to the ocean. While not adjacent to a railroad station, this property is sufficiently close to constitute walking distance, and therefore what is being proposed is a transit-oriented development. I would respectfully submit, as I did on July 8th, that the technical requirements of this proposed project may and probably will have to receive some relief from the zoning board of appeals in the form of area variances in the proximity of the Island Park Railroad Station, which is quite close, not adjacent. This area is currently exhibiting the damage left as a result of Superstorm Sandy. Both the Coyote Grill and Patty McGee's are currently the subject of building permit applications in the event the application is not approved. The applicant would obviously prefer that the project as described in this application and the amended application be approved, but should those approvals not be granted, the economics of land ownership would require the rebuilding of those restaurants and the utilization of any remaining property in compliance with the industrial zone. The remaining industrial zone, which is that metal building on the property, is obsolete and it's in poor condition. It's located within close proximity to the Camerisano House at the easternmost border of the property. In July, I walked that property with Mr. Camerisano and Mr. Vitale, and at that time there were numerous discarded syringes and needles in the roadbed on the private property as well. At the time of that inspection, there was also another neighbor who was utilizing our property and appeared to be doing so, and doing painting and things without our permission. So there also has been what was obviously some trespassing and use which is not in accordance with our approvals and our likes, even though it's industrial property. Now, the CAS, or the transit-oriented zone, was of course adopted by the town board several years ago in recognition of the fact that, I'm quoting from section 108.1 of Article 10A of the Town of Hempstead Building Code, which is a quote, "It's in the public interest for the town to utilize its zoning authority to provide higher density housing near a popular railroad station and bus route." There is a bus route on Western Boulevard. And the last thing, my recollection is that we did introduce the schedule, bus schedule as well. It was the intention of the then town board in adopting the CAS zoning to exercise reasonable control over transit-oriented development by setting forth 4 criteria for location. And I would respectfully submit that those criteria are subject to the mandates of section 267 of the town law in terms of the variance authority of the town zoning board of appeals should that be required. Now, I do have with me today our real estate expert, Barry Nelson, who's spoke at the July 8th, and we did so rather extensively. The comments are in the record. I don't believe he has anything to add, but if you'd like to redo his presentation, I can do that, Madam Supervisor. If not, I'm perfectly comfortable, should the board incorporate the prior record of this hearing. And I would also ask that the copies of the training be provided to Councilwoman Sweeney as well as Councilman Blakeman prior to the determination being made. We also have our traffic expert present, Robert S. Backer. Should the board have any additional questions for him, I can represent that vision of additional parking obviously is a positive and would not adversely impact his presentation, but if anyone on the board has any questions, Mr. Backer, he is here. We have our architect present also, Michael Bonacasa, in the event that you have any questions with respect to the design. The only other thing that I would mention for the record at this time, which I did state back in July 8th, is the examination of an inspection of the premises that I made in several months when I referred to change syringes, new needles around, as well as the obvious deterioration of the functionally obsolete metal industrial buildings there, and the damage which still remains from superstorm Sandy does create a lighting condition, which is one of the determinations and findings that this board must make in terms of the adoption of the CAS zone. That being said, I have no further comments at this point. We'll be happy to attempt to answer any questions.
Any questions of the board for Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes, Supervisor, thank you. Good morning, Mr. D'Agostino. Could you comment on the economic impact to local businesses if this petition were approved?
Well, again, I'll go back to the July 8th hearing, and I believe we have some individuals present who can testify a little more accurately than I, but it was viewed in a highly positive light in terms of the jobs created by construction, by bringing in the target market of young professionals. This is adjacent to a shopping center, the anchor of which is King Cullen, and meetings that I had prior to the last hearing, I had a number of meetings with civic people and representatives of the Chamber of Commerce, etc. They were highly enthusiastic as to what the benefit would be. What I would suggest is if that question could be put to some of the other people who are present, who I know will be testifying, they can do it in a much more detailed manner. But and what I also did not mention, we also had the county legislator at that time, county legislator president, and she was here at that time, spoke enthusiastically in favor of the application, as with the view toward the positives that it was going to bring to the community, both in bringing it back to the brink of the situation that resulted from Superstorm Sandy, and the positives beyond that, bringing the new economics into the community.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino.
All right, thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. I know you and your experts can say that we do have a number of residents who wish to be heard. Is Charles Lucchese part of the board application, or is that a resident? Charles Lucchese? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Lucchese. You would share your name and address with the record.
My name is Charles Lucchese, 9 Quebec Road, Island Park, New York, 11558. for the proposal, and for the following reasons. It's smart. It's smart in the sense that we have an industrial property that is there presently that would be converted into residential, which would bring people to the community. It's also probably the nicest spot in Island Park, and that's the reason why the condominiums were built in the first place, because it's a wonderful place to live. It would bring new people to the community. It would bring greater property values to the community. And not only that, right now Island Park is known strictly for industrial purposes. We having a storage facility there or another restaurant there, I don't think is as profitable to the community as this apartment complex would be. I think it would be a tremendous asset to the community. Now, there's also a silent majority in the community that are all for it, because they recognize the need in Island Park, and especially in the village of Island Park. As you know, many people and many houses are still empty in Island Park. Many of the businesses are still vacant. And Mr. Vitale is willing to invest money where no one else will. Maybe that speaks to his intelligence. But I think it's a very, very wise and smart use of the property and a great benefit to the community. So I'm strongly for it, and I encourage you to really look at the facts. Right now, it's a blight to the community. This would change it drastically, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Is it Stan Weintraub? Stan Weintraub? Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you would share your name and address for the record.
Stan Weintraub, 64 Seabreeze Lane, Warren, Ohio.
Thank you.
Good morning.
If you can speak right into the microphone.
Sure.
Thank you.
Finally, I agree with Mr. Vitale's efforts to improve this process, but strongly disagree with his attempt to put in high-rise, high-density housing. Of course, what I would really like to see would be his donating the land to the town for a waterfront park. In a lot of conversation in the past few years, people like to throw around the super storm Sandy term and pivot such projects as revitalizing devastated areas. As a retired engineer, I would like to highlight that this project would negatively impact me and my neighbors. It's another Sandy, if another Sandy like flood really hit, the high-density, high-rise building will be built on top of raised ground. As a result, all 128 of the homes in our community will become below ground after the land is raised. In the event of a future flood, we will wind up being at the bottom of a newly created bowl with a new higher ground preventing drainage. We will sit between King Cullen, which is on higher ground, and this project has raised land.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weintraub, for taking your time. I have David Rosenberg. Are you part of the application, or you're?
I'm going to speak on behalf of the Yacht Club Condominium Property Adjacent to it.
Okay. Please have a seat. You can identify yourself, please.
Madam Supervisor, members of the town board, my name is David Rosenberg, Rosenberg Junior Lakeman, 666 Old Country Road, London City, New York. Members of the board, when we were here on July 8th, I gave quite extensive comments, and as Mr. D'Agostino requested, I too would ask that any of the comments that I made at that time be incorporated into the record, and again, for the benefit of the two board members, we'd be happy to make them available. Although I am prepared to speak today in regard to the application, I would like to bring to the board's attention the fact that within the last month or so, there have been discussions taking place between Mr. Vitale, who is the principal of the applicant, and Stuart Wurtzel, who is the president of the Condominium Association of the Yacht Club. As recently as last Thursday, I don't want to say there was an agreement, but there was a concept put forward which both sides seemed interested in pursuing. That has not yet been reduced to writing, and it would involve some additional features that the developer may or may not be able to make to the community. With that in mind, and for those of you who are on the town board July 8th, realize that I have several comments which were, I thought, rather persuasive to the board. We would ask, if possible, to give us a chance to poll the community and have the community actually give us input on whether or not this would be acceptable to them. If we could keep the record open, and I'd be committed to come back at a future hearing, if in fact there is no agreement. And we can do that within the next few weeks, but we just didn't have the time to do it before today's hearing. And then with the President's Week coming up, it probably will be about 2 weeks before we'll be able to get most of the community together. If the board is not inclined to grant that, I am prepared to proceed, but I think that there is some goodwill and good faith that's been developed over the last few weeks. I'd hate to see that lost by me making comments which might be seen by the applicant as being unsupported.
I think we could keep the record open for a finite, period of time, but I think that,
And again, I don't think that Christina has any further objection. The amended petition, by the way, wasn't actually filed, although it was stated in October, it wasn't actually filed with the board until January 8th, so it's only about a month or so since the actual amended petition was submitted.
May I do another request? Obviously, we've been going on for a long time, and we're quite anxious to get a determination to know which way we're going. Obviously, it's within the discretion of the board to grant additional time. I don't dispute that. Just for the purpose of clarity of the record, we're talking about written comments, and obviously we would have an opportunity to respond to those written comments. Is that what's being proposed?
yeah, absolutely. By opening the record, by keeping the record open for a finite, again, for a finite period of time, certainly, if there was any kind of agreement between the developer and the property that you represent, or any kind of colloquy that you wanted part of the public record on both sides, certainly. This is not a unilateral, and it's not a one-sided.
Madam Supervisor, what I was suggesting, if I may, is that, if we do reach an agreement, and I will not be here next time, so if we could put this up for sometime, say, the end of March or the middle of March, which would be about a month from now.
Well, this is the application.
If I would like to be able, if we don't reach an agreement, I'd like to have the hearing reopened, and I'd be able to come and present evidence.
That's not, today is the application. And, this is part two. Usually there's one time that an application is heard. What I think the town board would be willing to do is keep the record open for a finite period of time as per your request.
Okay.
And obviously for Mr. D'Agostino and his team to respond if they feel it's necessary. But this is now day two of an application.
Okay, as long as we can submit it in writing, please.
And if I may, back up what the supervisor said, in the normal course of business, we reserve a decision on this application today. We don't normally issue it on the bench, so to speak. But with the board, since this is something that has been out there for quite some time, and I realize this is the second incarnation, but the project has been out there for some time, that within the normal course of business, we'd be looking to make a decision either at our next meeting or the meeting thereafter. So I would suggest that both councils get together, and if something can be submitted that makes that is acceptable to both sides, all the better. But the board would be ready to make a decision again either at our next meeting or the meeting thereafter. So with that, we'll put some as a supervisor. I need some evidence to get together, because as a supervisor said, we are looking to rule on this one way or the other in a finite period of time.
Councilman Santini, we understand that. Certainly, I was not looking for an open-ended thing because of the President's Week, when a lot of people are away. We're planning to have a meeting sometime in February 23rd. So if we can have something, into you within a month from now, that should be fine.
Now it's a month?
No, if we have a meeting, the board meeting, then we have to have an agreement, a written agreement between the developer and the applicant.
I think
I urge you to use all speed, understanding that it's President's Week and different holidays coming up. We urge both sides to use as great a dispatch as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Felicia Nicholas? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. D'Agostino, did you?
I think we both felt if sort of going to ahead to prepare that agreement. So
Or whatever.
I don't know what the,
You should just consider it up to your head. We're not going to give you a ticket. With all due respect. Felicia Nicholas? Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Felicia Nicholas, 20 Marion Place. I'm Park, New York, 11598. Like the likes of Mr. Lucchese who spoke before, I too am for this project. I sit on the board of 2 organizations. I'm a lifelong resident. I've also sat as a committee chair, not chair, but a committee member of CRP, and really went through what our town of Island Park has become since Sandy. As you know, our village was devastated. We have many vacant stores in our village, and I don't see much improvement since the storm. Mr. Vitale has invested much into this community. He built King Cullen. He changed what was once a thriving club into a beautiful catering hall. And although I didn't work for Mr. Vitale, I did work down on that block when it was in full swing. It was an end of an era for me when Montego Bay closed, and an end of an era when both bars were destroyed. Many people in our community feel that it is a blight on our community. You look at the disheveled buildings that are completely shut down, and here Mr. Vitale is proposing these beautiful condominiums, and to bring people into our community and more families or young professionals like myself. I saw his proposals. I would love to live there. However, we need something to breathe life back into our community. I saw our mayor sitting here. I'm not sure on his feelings, but he has always said, make Island Park a destination. It's a great piece of property. It's on the water. How could people look at something like this and say, wow, how could I not want to live here? You want to bring a breath air into this community and more economic growth on top of that. And I believe having this project go up and rezoning from commercial to residential will bring other business owners and investors into our community to invest and make it what it once was. So I strongly urge you guys to consider, please.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas, for coming in. Is it Alex Kupek? Alex Kupek?
He was here, I think he just stepped out.
Understood. Are we, there we go. Good morning. I know you have your hands full, so.
Yes, thank you, David. Sorry.
Oh, so
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is Alex Grubman. I live at 100 Lake Court, Unit 95, directly across the street from the proposed complex. My family, neighbors, and I have some major concerns about what's being proposed. A recent petition I signed that you have a copy of by now, with about 60 signatures, voices those concerns. At first glance, one might be tempted to dismiss those concerns as not in my backyard, but I'd like to draw the distinction of why that is not so. The existing zoning law actually has 5 restrictions, not 4, that were mentioned by Ms. Dempsey. The 5th restriction is that it can't be placed in an existing residential area within 200 feet, I believe, is a specific language. I'd like to take a moment and please put yourself in my shoes. Imagine that a developer wishes to put up a high-rise building directly across the street from your respective homes. Not just across the street, but they would like to privatize the street and eliminate the public street buffer between your home and the development. Imagine further that they qualify under none of the zoning law provisions that would require, that would be prerequisites. But they are applying to seek relief from all of them. And then imagine yourself appealing to the town board to uphold the decision. In this highly imaginative scenario, would you expect the town board to uphold the zoning law or to make an exception on all counts? The zoning law is here for a reason. It protects existing residents and it gives people a clear idea of what to expect in their neighborhood over time. I don't want to go into the specific 5 requirements that are not met. And I do want to mention that adding some remote space in a parking lot already constrained, that already have to receive a variance by having too few spaces as it is, doesn't seem to help from where I stand. If we allow this, we're basically saying, we're setting a precedent for having developers lease remote parcels to qualify under law that they would otherwise not qualify under. The 5th and final criteria that Alan did not mention is the requirement for high density. This new project would be 30 feet from 11 homes in my area. And it will be within 200 feet of 17 more. That's 28 homes within a 200-foot radius of the new project. Now, these are single-family, individually deeded, and individually taxed homes in town of Hempstead. I understand the town board's job is to protect the residents from potential breaches of law and to consider exceptions when necessary. If the town board wants to allow to change the law and permit this type of construction to shoehorn buildings wherever they physically fit, then change the zoning law. This will create dense farms and buildings like 5 boroughs in New York City with the crowding, traffic, and impossible parking that creates. Change the rule this way and people will know what to expect and possibly relocate accordingly. But please don't make this building an exception just for us in the face of the existing zoning law preventing it. It doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood and will be quality of life issue for the existing residential neighbors. We're not against developing the land, but we feel very strongly that Mr. Vitale and the town board need to consider the neighbors this would impact. Build residences that fit the space, match the density requirements, and do not exceed quality of life or price. Are rentals in Island Park a good idea? Possibly. But let's face it, high-density rentals is more about profit margins for the developer than the benefits to the town. It's worth changing the town of Hempstead land. Is it worth changing the town of Hempstead landscape and quality of life of the current taxpayer homeowners by creating an appropriate high-density rentals? We'll sign a petition bill. We request the existing Waterview Road to stay public street. If it's being abandoned, it should be split down the middle and given to the adjacent property owners. The land should be developed within existing zoning restrictions. A residential building will be okay, but not one designated as transit-oriented, as it does not qualify any of the 5 criteria previously mentioned. I'd like to end with a quote that I received in a town of Hempstead press release on July 24, 2014 regarding a major victory in the town of Wanata over a telecommunications giant attempting to impact the quality of life in the community. The quote goes, "While this victory is sweet, we'll continue to remain vigilant in the face of other potentially troublesome cell antenna applications in our communities, as well as other quality of life issues," Kate Murray said. I thank my neighbors in Wanata for their hard work and tireless efforts in preserving the suburban nature of our communities, and we will continue to do everything we can to maintain our neighborhoods as great places in which to live, work, and raise a family. I stand before you hoping that you will do all in your power to protect and preserve the rights and character of Island Park as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Supervisor. Good morning, Town Council. This evening, it's a true pleasure to see our new members of the Town Council. and it's an honor to be here among you all. If I may. My name is Michael McGinty. I serve as the mayor of the Incorporated Village of Island Park. My purpose this morning is to testify as it relates to the proposal to construct single and two-bedroom apartments on property formerly occupied by two nightclubs. Nightclubs, despite the best efforts of their owners, bringing loud noise and thousands of young people to an otherwise quiet residential neighborhood. This saturation of young people and the concomitant difficulties systemic to such an environment will become the past, while this project, providing housing opportunities to an upwardly mobile economic workforce, combined with the mass transit accessibility, will become the present and the future. Additional residential property on the assessment roll, an upgraded zone, as well as additional parking, as evidenced by this proposal, serves as yet further reasons to go forward. I appear as a representative of the village and its board of trustees. We believe that this project serves as an example of Island Park as a destination. This project represents another cog in the wheel of economic growth in Island Park. This project is a belief in the resurgence of a neighborhood so decimated by the superstorm. Economic growth so vital to our community, our community at large, be it Barn Mile, the Incorporated Village, or Island Park. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thomas Robert?
I think Alex, would like to put it up. That's it.
Good morning, sir. You could share your name and address?
Tom Roberts, 100 Baker Court, Unit 93. Alex is a neighbor 2 units away. What I would say is exactly what I would say. This project is going to be 30 foot from my back door. I'm sure that, all due respect, when they're putting this together, they're going to have to be driving miles into the ground, probably 500 to 600. That would be a guess, to try and hit bedrock or something that would hold these buildings together. Their view, this wonderful view of the waterfront, they're looking across about 200 foot to the back of the hospital. So I don't know where they think that this is an attractive area. But again, that's Mr. McCarthy's choice. I would like the question that I would say if he's going to put something up, not 86 units, where the residents that are backing on that, on the street that he wants to take, are going to be looking at it. I don't know how many board members here would like to have that in the backyard, quality of life. That would be, my issue would be quality of life. What are we going to have left after they've done this? They refuse to identify us for any damage. In our first meetings with Mr. McCallum, he refused to identify us for any damage that this construction, these piles, are going to put in. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Thomas Escher? Share your name and address for the record, please.
Thomas Asher, 86 Waterford Road, Park, New York. I'm here talking on behalf of the Island Park Business and Residential Chamber. We had a meeting with Mr. Vitale about a year and a half ago. We invited him to one of our meetings. We have about 140 plus very active members in our organization, and he came to one of our meetings to do his presentation. We had a really good showing, over 60 people, and there was not one adverse comment about what he was proposing to do. The chamber is absolutely, like I said, it's business and residence, so they're combined. So, you know, the organization is absolutely totally behind his project. On a personal level, I own property in Barnum Island also. I'm not just a taxpayer in the village. As a taxpayer in town of Hempstead also, I would like to see this project go through. I couldn't feel any different than what Alex has brought up. I think things do need to change. Ms. Nichols brought up that, you know, the CRP board. I sat on my board with her, and it was widely discussed about the future of development. Over the last 25 years, the statistics are plain and simple that we're losing our children. We're educating them here, and then they're moving away because we do not have affordable housing. We're also losing our seniors for the same reason. Personally, I have another daughter in the village, and it's a split-level house, and I couldn't raise my house, so I had to dorm it up. When I dormed it up, I lost my mother-daughter status. We had to move my in-laws who lived in the house with me down to Florida. And we just moved back to Jersey just recently, and it's just not working out financially. So I bought a house in Florida. They're going to be moving down there in May. And, but they would love to stay here. We just have nothing here. We don't have affordable housing, you know, for seniors. We don't have affordable housing for young people. Long Beach Motor Inn, hopefully, you know, you guys are working hard with the county on trying to get that done. That's as equally as important. We need more projects like Mr. Vitale's in our community and on Long Island. We have to try to keep our young. That's our future. So I'm absolutely totally behind this project, and I wish him well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Her name is Sudowski. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good morning. I live Sadowski, I live in the yacht club. Nice to be here, didn't think I'd be here today. I've heard a lot of great speeches. The truth is, this is a spectacular project. I think compromise is in order. It can't be that high.
It's going to be filmed anyway.
And I know it's important for Mr. Vitale for the return on investment. Because the higher it is, the more units he can put in. It just doesn't make sense. Common sense has to prevail. I know the board and Mr. Vitale's lawyers are trying to figure out a way to make it happen. But as far as a destination is concerned, as someone just mentioned, it's only going to be a destination for the 150 people who live there. It's not going to affect the economy of Island Park. In fact, it'll detract from the values of our homes, which at one point were in excess of $1 million. So the more people that are coming to this complex, the less the value of our units will be. And there's 128 units. So my final answer is common sense has to prevail. Someone's got to make a decision, and that's the tough thing to do. Let him do his project. I would love it to be clean and nice and neat, but you can't put it 4 stories high. Doesn't make sense. Have a wonderful day. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Mrs.
I was wondering what you guys did for a living.
Dale Singer? Good morning. Well, there you go. That sounds
My name is Dale Singer. I live at 100 Baker Court, Unit 9, Highland Park, New York, 91558. The first thing, I've been listening to people who've been speaking today, and I also agree that any improvement would be wonderful, but not of the density. The people who have spoken have basically spoken on behalf of the village. But this apartment complex that's not in the village, although of course it would have an effect on it. It's in an area that is very little. There are two access streets, one which has been privatized, and they lead to the only north-south street that lead directly to the complex. And that street is only a quarter of a mile long, and it's only got 3 stop signs. Going down in that direction, north-south, you have 4 businesses that use Pettit Place right now. You have Fantozzi Brothers Demolition, which is at 4 Pettit Place, and that has coming in backhoes, bulldozers, trucks, demolition equipment, and that has to come down Pettit Place. You have Jordan's Lobster Farm on 1 Pettit Place, and that has its own private parking lot. And you know in the summer, everybody's down there for lobster. You have Bridgeview Yacht Club, lovely catering place, and it's very busy, especially again on the weekends. It has its own parking lot. Then you have Warehouse 5, which is a club and a bar, which has, again, use of the parking lot. There are no other parking lots except the King Cullen Shopping Center, and that has had 2 parking variances by the Zoning Board of Appeals to have a limit on the parking places required by law. All of that traffic that's coming down is not only people utilizing this, but you have delivery trucks, you have sanitation trucks, as well as the customers. You also have delivery to the shopping center coming down that street in order to get to the loading dock of King Cullen. There are cars exiting onto the new street, and there is only 1 light at Austin Boulevard. I've noticed in the past several months, even though it's winter, when you're going south along Austin Boulevard, okay, and you want to make a left turn into either Baker Court or Marina Path in the street, there's a turning lane that at most can only hold 3 cars. I've seen people going into the parking lot and not being one of those 3 cars who actually stop with their turn signal on, actually tying up the left lane of Austin Boulevard just before the Long Beach Bridge. In the summer, more traffic going in and out would be a traffic hazard and a disaster. We in the complex have had one very serious accident so far where somebody did not stop at a stopping sign and the jaws of death had to be called because a car went out of control. And that's just last year, I think it was. As it is now during the summer, especially on weekends, we ourselves could not get home. Once, many years ago, we had to show our identification to the police in order to get in. It was that rapid. As I said before, there are no parking lots other than the ones that are owned by the businesses, and there's very little street parking. In addition, I heard the amendment here to put in 10 more parking spots. That is where the parking variances have already been granted and have a limited number of parking spots as well. One last concern is that the school bus that takes our kids to school stops 100 feet from the intersection of Pettit Place and Marina Way. And with additional traffic, we're worried about the safety of our children. And that said, I respectfully submit that we are against it.
Thank you very much. Andrew Berman?
Supervisor, good morning. It is Andy Berman. I'm at 2755 Brook Avenue, Oceanside. I'm here representing the Island Park Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We're speaking in favor of the petition, Mr. Vitale's petition. For those who don't live in Island Park, the bars and restaurants from the old Channel 80, Patty McGee's, Montego Bay, put us on the map. It brought an area, a lot of traffic, especially in the summer nights and the weekends, and awareness of this small waterfront community that many multi-generation families of Island Park have a deep love for. With Mr. Vitale's proposal, this transformation would be a major economic stimulus for an area that's still licking their wounds from sandy. I can tell you one thing, speaking to Councilman's comments directly, the economic impact from the business owners that I've talked to that are chamber members, they're looking forward to these 86 families. They need these 86 families. I mean, many of them are struggling just to keep the existence. And if you drive down the village of Island Park, those absence of the residents that have left has left a big void. Still have a lot of people that just haven't returned to Island Park. And we envision that the 86 affluent households that developments like this will attract, well, people are going to fall in love with the area. They're going to eventually buy. And it serves as a mechanism to attract people here that are going to stay in the town permanently. Based on the success of other waterfront luxury rental projects, even here on Long Island, the Chamber feels that a development like this will attract these affluent residents that businesses need for the increase in commerce, which we all know can lead to more jobs. The Chamber welcomes any opportunity to assist the town and Mr. Vitale in ensuring that we provide Island Park and the town of Hempstead with a viable alternative to the unsustainable current zoning of this parcel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. I'm going to give it a go. Is it Stuart? Is it Wurzel?
Yeah, no, pretty much the same.
Okay. I don't have any other speaking slips where the person indicates they want to speak, so I'll just do a general. Does anybody else wish to speak? Good morning, sir. If you could share your name and address, please.
My name is Robert Stern. I reside at the Yacht Club Condo, 100 Baker Court, number 3. I'm against the development of the property there for many reasons that were eloquently spoken prior to me. One of the major issues, even though they said they have an expert, is the traffic. And that person, I don't believe, goes in and out every day as residents of Island Park do. And it's very, very dangerous as it is now. Many accidents occurring on Boston Boulevard trying to get out of Baker Court. I can't see that the increase in family that would be there and the amount of traffic could be any less dangerous than it is now. These 10 spots that they're talking about at the supermarket, the shopping center, is kind of ridiculous because it's nowhere near where they're proposing to build the building. And nobody in the world is going to park that far away and carry packages or walk their children or commute back and forth to park their car at that location. It makes no sense at all. They spoke about new economics and a breath of fresh air, but I haven't heard what it is. I'm a resident of Island Park, and I shop in Oceanside and Long Beach. So the gentleman just spoke from Oceanside. Yeah, that would be a great benefit for Oceanside, more people shopping in Oceanside. Island Park really doesn't have many shopping areas that you can go to. You have Long Beach and you have Oceanside, which has everything. I guess maybe that's why Island Park really never has survived their stores there. They seem to come in and go out as quick as they came in. The properties that they're talking about, they said they took a walk. The attorney said they took a walk. They found needles. They have people using the property to do things, but on their own there. I think that's actually a bad thing, and the person who owns the property, which I think is Mr. Vitale, I'm not exactly sure, should have fenced it in and closed that off so people can't go in there. It's obviously a dangerous area. The building is falling apart, the rubble is there, and people could get hurt who happen to venture onto the properties. I think his unwillingness to fence off the area and keep it protected, and keep the people protected, is just a sign of what he's going to do in the future. I don't think he had a really concern for what's there now. If he would have fenced it off and made it safe. So that's just kind of giving me a preview of what to expect in the future. I'm against the project, and I really wouldn't like to see that increase in traffic and danger to our families and children who live there now. That's really what I have to say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stone.
Thank you.
I saw a couple other dudes. Yep, and then I'll. Say your name and address.
Yes. My name is Mary Camisano. I live at 180 Waterford Road, I'm in Clark. Good morning. Actually, in July, for the last meeting, my husband covered a lot of material, which is why I purposely didn't think I would have to speak today. But after hearing what was said, we are definitely in support of the project. I live right next door. We moved into this house 8 years ago. I lived there with my husband and my 2 children. We moved in because it's a terrific area. I love the yacht club on one side, it's spotless, it's beautiful. And I have to say the last 2 years, it's just, the bars were maybe a problem for a lot of people. I didn't complain because I just didn't think it really impacted me. But since Sandy and since the devastation, it is absolutely disgusting. It's just a magnet for unsavory people. It's horrible, the area right on my doorstep. As soon as I open my gate, and I heard somebody say before about the needles and the debris, I'll tell you right now, I never did that until the last 2 years, and under my gate, and I have my kids, teenagers, and the stuff would be coming underneath. They would use condoms, there would be needles, there would be liquor bottles, beer bottles, garbage, absolutely disgusting. And this all came after Sandy. Now, somebody said about a fence. The fence has been put up. Mr. Vitale has been in communication with us from day one, asking us what we can do, how we can help, and we discussed the fence. A fence was put up. If these are the kind of people, a fence isn't going to keep them out. These people are coming through the fence, teenagers at night, maybe drinking, using drugs, and it isn't just restrained to that. I'll tell you I think it was 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I came home, and my kitchen was filled with smoke. I thought there was a fire in my house. I looked out, and right in the empty lot where having bees, there was a fire, a big fire that was set, not by kids, not by teenagers, but grown men who were there fishing and decided the bugs were bothering them, so they started this huge fire. I went over and we got it. This is what I'm saying. So we are totally, I think it can only be an absolute asset to have some nice condominiums or condos, nice respectable people as our neighbors. We are absolutely in support of the project. The quality of life and again for doing that family.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Ladies, we do ladies first. I know your hand was up very, very early, and then sir, you'll be next. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mary Palermo. I live at 100 Beaver Court, Unit 18. I just want to speak for the other residents of the yacht club who are in favor of this project. The majority of residents, we voted for a board of managers to represent our concerns, so I would hope that you would take their well-researched and voted upon word over the knee-jerk reaction of a very loud and vocal minority. Those who are truly thinking about what's best for the future of our community and Island Park as a whole, rather than the few who are concerned about losing a view, are more interested in working with Mr. Vitale in a civilized manner to come to a mutually beneficial outcome. I've said it before and I'll say it again that Mr. Vitale is willing to invest his money to improve this area, so I, for one, support him in his efforts. It is obvious to anyone with eyes that Bridgeview and the King Cullen Shopping Center are far more appealing than an empty lot, run-down warehouses, and abandoned restaurants. It is foolish to fight against a residential building to be left with that, or worse, a storage facility. I place my confidence in the Yacht Club Board of Managers to represent my community, and I hope that you will place more value on what they have to say than on the very vocal residents that do not represent the majority. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir. Thank you. Chivalry is not dead.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Could you share your name and address, please?
My name is Frank Jones. I live at 37 Quebec Road. I just wanted to say that for this project, my family's lived in Boston since 1928. I was born in Boston. I think this is the right thing for our park. And I know Mr. Canal very well. Do very good for our walk.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Supervisor, may I just say something? Sir, you've been there since 1920.
28.
28, your family.
Yes, I'm sure.
I have a warm spot for Island Park. After
do
World
too.
War II, my parents met on a canal in Island Park. And I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for
My
my
four uncles. My four uncles, Purple Cross, from Island Park. Out of Boston, great community. Mr. Patel will take good care of Island Park. A lot of money they can do a good job.
Good to see you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
My name is Mark Taglianetti. I'm the president of the Island Park Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a business owner in Island Park and a resident in Harbor Isle. And I would like to say that I'm totally behind this project. We need something like this. We need more members in our community. The businesses are hurting because people are going elsewhere to do their business because there's not as many people, there's not as much support. So I absolutely would like to back this project. Whether or not it's as high as it is stated right now, that's something that needs to be, it's a concern with a lot of people, but there should be something that everyone comes together and makes it, I'm sure go for it.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Oh, okay. It's fine, I want to make sure I... Good morning, actually, good afternoon. First, I'll say good afternoon. Could you share your names and addresses?
My name is Ellen Harris. I'm a woman who Rosemary Roberts, 100-93, Baker Court, Island Park.
Thank you.
Well, I realize Mr. Vitale is a developer and he wants to build on that property, which is his. We believe he's entitled to build it, but we believe he's not entitled to. He's built such a high-density complex that will congest our area even further. The traffic in and out of our neighborhood is impossible to get through. Come the summer months, I wait in line maybe 10 or 15 cars at a light to make the turn. And the summer months in our area start to neighbor because people start going to the beaches as soon as the weather turns to be 60 degrees. My neighbor was in an accident because we have 2 stop signs that do the traffic area. Her car turned over, she had to be taken out by the jaws of life. We have all had near misses in that area because people do not pay attention to the stop signs. I don't even know if they would pay attention to lights because the people who go through that area just don't care. There are no police there, there's nobody to stop them, they feel free to do whatever they want. I was almost hit several times going through that stop sign, my husband and neighbors have spoken about that. The area is congested, completely congested. I go to work every morning and I am in that parking lot through King Cove where there is a light because that's the safest place to go. And I am like 4 or 5 cars behind the first car, and I have to wait sometimes through at least 2 lights to get through. And it's just a generally high congested area. If Mr. Vitale wants to build, I think that's a wonderful idea to improve the area, but he doesn't have to build the capacity of the density that he wants to build. It's not good for our neighborhood, and I'm not even going to talk about the view because that's not consequential. That doesn't make any sense, I don't care now. But he will impact on our lives on a daily basis, trying to get into our neighborhood and trying to get out of our neighborhood. And when I hear them say that this is not related to, it is related to the complex, I hear professionals are going to, be leasing units. How do they know? How do people know that they actually will be able to rent these units? And how do even know that if there are apartments left that won't go to Section 8. We all don't know. We're a very small community. We're a safe community, and we're trying to preserve that. And with this high-density complex, I don't think we'll be able to do that. And also, there's one other fact which I don't understand. I may sound wrong when I talk about this. I went to the Chamber of Commerce meeting when it was had a year ago. And at that meeting, they spoke, there were stores speaking about how wonderful this new complex will bring business into them. But how can they say that now when Mr. Vitale's new complex, King Cullen, now will house a two-story pizza complex and Italian restaurant. It houses a wine and liquor store, and it houses a restaurant, and it houses King Cullen, who sells deli. All the stores in Island Park are going to suffer because these stores, people don't want to go into town, unfortunately. Most people go into town for the library and maybe to a bank. But now they go into the shopping center in King Cullen that Mr. Vitale built up. But he took away business from the town. So I don't understand how the Chamber of Commerce is praising him for bringing business into it when he took businesses out of it and put it into his shopping center. I don't understand it. If somebody could explain it to me, I would love to hear it. That's it.
I'm in agreement with everything she said, the density, the high density. He's entitled to build on his property. I'd love to see an improvement. I look at that ugly green building, it's right there. It's frightening because it's so dark back there, and there are neighborhoods back there. I'm afraid of fire. The problem with the traffic is the density is too much with the traffic. The school buses are backed up. There's more than one, especially in the snow. Had several accidents. Also, I'm bringing out one fact. There was other stores next to the King Cullen, and they seem to put out flags and their signs, gold, redeem gold, right on the sidewalk, almost into the street, Boston Boulevard. Several of us have called the police. I have written to the town, and I've spoken to the jeweler nicely that owns that, and he laughed in my face. And they put that, it blocks the view. So not only do we have all this traffic, you can't get out and go to work every morning. Also, as far as the stores go, all due respect to the chamber, we've been there, and the mayor of Island Park, I'd love to see it redone. The library, I use the church, I'm very active, I do use Island Park. The only thing is, I don't understand what Mr. Patel is saying about what the chamber's saying about the stores. He took out M-Power, which is a big power company, moved it into the King Cullen shopping center, and that left the vacant store in the village of Island Park. And then the liquor store, everybody went to Cox, that was a big liquor store in Island Park. They went to the liquor store right around, we could walk to it now. So it's taking away business, not adding. Hopefully they do. I love Island Park. So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Couple of comments. One, in terms of the use of the term high density. The permitted density in the CAS zone would have been twice what we're proposing. This is one half of the permitted density in the CAS zone, and we're only requesting half. In terms of parking, there are 143 spaces which are required. There are a total of 161 spaces which are provided, which is about 12.5% more. In terms of high-rise, right now this is an industrial zone, and there is a permitted height of 60 feet. In the CAS zone, there is a permitted height of 60 feet. We are proposing 50 feet 11 inches, which is 9 feet 1 inch lower than the required height. I will also say that there were inquiries made to us by the condominium board as to lowering one building and raising the height of the other building. And our position is that this matter has to go before the zoning board of appeals in any event, with respect to if the town board were to act, I think this matter still has to be referred to the zoning board, pursuant to the requirements of the town law. I'm not going to get into definitions of residence, whether it's single-family residence, multi-family residence, but there is some precedent in terms of that determination with respect to the radius. With respect to this being a blighted area, I can assure you that and just as you heard Mrs. Calansano, and she was much more detailed than I was, but I personally saw the needles and other things in the town right of way. Prior to Sandy, there were issues in that location due to the large numbers of young people, and I would respectfully direct the attention of the board members, specifically the new board members, to the testimony of County Legislator Ford, who testified as to what occurred before Sandy, and that they had to keep basically a police car on station due to some of the activities that went on, and the cost to the county and the money that the county would be saving by this approving this project. With respect to the first gentleman well, there was one gentleman who spoke in terms of wanting to acquire half of the right-of-way. I would go back to a comment that I made in my presentation. I think I'm probably maybe the only person in the room that was around when the yacht club was zoned. I don't think, you were there? Okay. You were there? Okay. As a condition of the zoning, and as noted on the subdivision map, there is no access permitted from the yacht club to Waterview Road. There could be no gates, there can be no access to it. So in terms of why they would possibly want to acquire a piece of property that they will cut off from, there would have to be hearings not only before this board, but there'd have to be hearings before the Nassau County Planning Commission, where those conditions were imposed. Again, at the risk of being overly repetitive, we do believe that the zoning board of appeals would have to look at certain of the issues here, and we believe that's within the jurisdiction of the zoning board as set forth by the New York State town law. I will reserve any other comments to respond in writing to whatever Mr. Rosenberg might submit. But I will tell you, we will continue talking to the yacht club in the near future, and we have made good faith efforts to address their concerns, but we have 120, 130 residents. There are always going to be issues with some that we can't address, but we've tried to do some with good faith. I thank you very much, and I'm hopeful that
Before you step down, Mr. D'Agostino, if you can, I know it was discussed at the July 8th hearing, but as we've indicated, there are two new board members here, so we'd like you to address it again. As the property is currently zoned, could you articulate some of the uses that the property could be put to as a matter of right, meaning without a change of zone, as the current zoning would permit?
again, this is an industrial zone property. It probably was done so because there was a time when there was a lot of industrial waterfront activity in terms of fishing or whatever. This can be used for any type of heavy industry. This can be used for the storage of heavy industrial equipment. trucks, trains. It is probably the potentially the most heavily impact potential on an adjacent residential zone that exists in the town zone. I don't have a copy of the zoning code, the entire zoning code before me, but I can assure you that, other than some prohibited uses such as abattoirs, which is canning and electroplating, some of that stuff, you can have any type of industrial plant there, trucking, anything of that nature. And I think that's somewhat manifested by one of the references that one of the speakers made to an industrial operation not too far away, which has bulldozers and cranes and that type of thing. So if this were to be developed as a matter of right now, it probably would have the greatest impact and most, let me say the greatest impact on the yacht club. And that may have been one of the reasons why prior town board, which Councilman Santino was around for, and I was not at the town, I was another governmental entity, but I was around for, prohibited any cross-access onto Waterview and all of the industrial properties.
What about the bars, nightclubs, that could be reinstituted?
Yeah, and we have applications in for building permits for that. Now, that's not our preference, but, this property is expensive to maintain. Their taxes, their insurance, and we're also proposing all new bulkheading, over 1,000 feet of bulkheading, obviously everything to DEC standards, post-Sandy DEC standard, which is going to benefit rather than adversely affect the yacht club in the opinion of our engineers. It's something that we would like to see happen. We see it as a plus in terms of the proposed development, and we see it as an upzoning from industrial. People use the term downzoning, upzoning, and upzoning from industrial is restricted to residential. Half the height, half the density permitted, less than the height permitted, with greater parking. Part of this complex, which involves local shopping, and I won't seek to reiterate what the mayor of Island Park and the members of the representatives of the various commercial organizations already said to you. It's been viewed as a positive. We believe that these are permanently rentable. There are market studies that are done before people invest this kind of money and before lenders will lend this kind of money. Mr. Vitale has shown that he's been a good neighbor over the years, and people who disagree don't raise issues with that. But we see this as a step forward, and leaving it as industrial is a monumental step backward in our case. But we can only do what the zoning permits.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. We have one final person just checked in, so we certainly have the right. Lenny Boyd? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, members of the town board. I'll try and be brief. I want to come down here and talk on behalf for the project. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Glenn J. Gillian, 183 Quebec Road, Allen Park. When I was president of the Chamber of Commerce for the past 4 years until this January, I had the pleasure of reviewing the project with Mr. Vitale. In fact, Mr. Vitale came to several of our meetings and outlined the project, the diagrams, and the like. The Chamber at the time, and I'm not here speaking for the Chamber, I am here speaking as a resident and business owner in Allen Park. But at that time, the chamber did approve of the project, and the reason being is for the same reasons that I approve of the project now. Those reasons being that ever since Storm Sandy, Allen Park has been left with a shortage of people, if you will. Many people are still not back in their homes. Many businesses are still not up. There, I'm happy to say that new businesses are coming into our town. There has been a shortage of money coming into our town. We've been known, we spoke about in some parts as the forgotten village. I don't think we've been forgotten, but I think that red tape and other issues have caused our town not to get the money that maybe other areas have gotten. Be that as it may, with the shortage of people that we have, it's difficult to maintain the businesses that we have there, and it's difficult to attract new business to our town. It's just an idea of sustainability. The businesses there when 20%, roughly 20% of the people are no longer there. I think this project would give us an influx of people, and people with higher incomes who could add to the sustainability of our businesses. Me being a private business owner there, I'm for it as well. But besides that, I know there are concerns from members of the yacht club and surrounding neighbors, and I am passionate for those concerns. I think they should be taken into consideration. I think they should be looked over, and I think some sort of compromise should be reached. But in the end, I believe that the project should be approved. If we look at it, my understanding of the property that it is zoned as far as there can be, as it stands, a higher elevation of structures put on the property than is being proposed now. I think that would be more adverse to the interests of certain people in the yacht club and surrounding neighbors if that had went through. I'll just sum up with this, Supervisor, is that it would be advantageous if we could have the project passed. I don't believe the amount of units, I believe it's 86, would be a detriment. I think it would be a plus to our community. And I believe when looking at the possibility if we put up if a storage facility was put up there, and it was put up 5 stories high, I don't think anyone would want that. I don't think any of the surrounding neighbors are going to want the bars or the nightclubs to reappear. For a while, they were kind of the lifeblood of our town, but they did have their drawbacks. And I don't think we want to go back to that either. We'd like to establish Allen Park as a community where there are apartments for younger people and for growing families. They are nice apartments. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have obviously no response. What I neglected to do earlier, I'd like to offer up the lease that I think is probably part of your package for this hearing, but the event is not. I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. Very warm thank you to all of the residents who came down. We've spent several hours with us already, and everybody's busy, everybody has a life to live and to live, but we appreciate coming down and sharing your opinions with us. And as there was some discussion about the record being kept open, it was amongst the attorneys, but certainly I want to make sure everybody knows that the record is open for everybody. For a finite period of time, but this is not just confined to the lawyers. The residents and anybody else can add if they were not here and wanted to add their opinion as well. Thank you. May I have a motion?
Yes, Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the decision be reserved.
Second.
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Aye. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes.
Aye.
Councilman Santino.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
The decision is reserved. Thank you once again. Please call the decision.
On the decision calendar, we have petition of Neil Ford LLC to rezone from Residence B District to Y Industrial District in Oceanside.
May I have a motion?
Yes, Supervisor Lee, petition the second.
Supervisor Murray.
Aye.
Councilman Eversino. Councilman Boosley. Councilman Cruz. Councilman Santino.
Please call the administration.
Supervisor, on the administration calendar, we have items 1 through 61.
Not may I have a motion?
Yes, Supervisor Lee, district calendar is
Supervisor Murray.
We have some resolutions. Noreen Donovan? Noreen Donovan? Noreen Donovan? Is there Joseph Montesano?
With the applicant.
Is there Dennis Rodriguez?
I'll tell you, I have to think about what you just said. Oh.
My name is Dennis O'Regan, 5 Ellen Place, Spring Cove, New York. I'm one of the principals in Anchorage Electric Service. This is in reference to 8143. And what we respectfully, as to the resolution, I would respectfully ask that the board delay voting on this resolution to the question of whether the low bidder is properly licensed and qualified as per the contract documents as well as town charter, chapter 40.
This matter has been raised over the past month or so, and has been looked into by the Department of Human Services, and the low bidder has been found to be qualified.
And he qualifies at chapter 84-5 and 15. As we had checked to see if he had a license, we were told he does not.
Well, I don't know who he is, who you're trying to say he, but the business is properly licensed. There are master electricians that do work in this business.
Can I give you?
I'd be glad to talk to you.
I'm sorry.
If you're sure.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Yours, Patel?
Yogi Patacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square. Number 29 on the administrative calendar. Once again, a membership dues for the Civil Service Commission, the organization, association of personnel and civil service officers. As I spoke on other membership dues we pay for other organizations, it's important as a member of an organization to act in the spirit of that organization. And, you know, I foil the employee list every year, and it's not hard to find many relatives that are working here. And, you know, you link it to the political contributions and everything. And the lack of transparency when you advertise these jobs in the civil service arena. The idea behind the Civil Service Commission, Civil Service Department, is to ensure that all residents have an opportunity to obtain these jobs. I'm happy to see that now we do put them on our website, but I think more needs to be done. I mean, just for example, we get so far 3 mailings about property taxpayer checkup in these forums. My legislator does it. Maidenbaum and all the other tax reduction agencies send you mail nonstop. They're probably going to buy in, but everyone knows that you could challenge your assessment. This is not like a secret. Anyone who doesn't, it's not because they don't know. They just get inundated. What I feel is, one of the things people don't know is if there are jobs available in the town, they are not advertised in the paper, they're not advertised in your mailings, and it wouldn't be hard on each mailing to dedicate a small section of each mailing, especially something like this, which costs quite a bit of money to produce. I would guess something like this costs maybe $100,000 to mail and produce and put the whole thing together, based on my experience in this kind of thing. You have photos and everything, it's very nicely done. But $35,000 just for mail, for that. $35,000 just to mail this, even if it was just this little card. So I think we should, if we're going to belong to an organization, we should live by the spirit of that organization, and then basically dedicate a portion of your mailings, since you insist on doing them, to let people know there are job availabilities, and to look at the website, TOH.NY, and you can find, and people can apply for these jobs. Because a lot of people, they don't know they exist. I didn't, for a long time, we didn't have them on the website, and I asked last year how you get it. You said people just send applications and you you draw from the pool that you will receive. That doesn't include everybody. Everybody doesn't know about these. And I'm just saying that there should be fairness to everyone by notification, transparency. And we do spend a lot of money to ensure that something that's already well known is really well known. Why can't we spend some money on things that aren't really well known?
We have postings in town hall and also in everybody's library, right? In everybody's own neighborhood. There are civil service listings, there are books, which show all the requirements, et cetera, needed, and where to apply. So
I mean, I'll throw that argument at you. I mean, I would accept that, except for one thing. Why don't you put these in the library and not send them and spend the exorbitant amount of money to produce? You said, yeah, but you said, but why don't you do what you just said? Why don't you put these in the local library and omit sending these each and every resident 4 times a year, 5 times a year? I mean, it's just like, if you think that's enough transparency to just post it in the library, fine, I'll agree with you, provided you agree with yourself and say that everything else will be posted at the library for all the numerous mailings you receive every day. So instead of sending a mailing, just put it in the local libraries, and then I have no argument. Number 38. I agree with this program, and we have an intermunicipal agreement to stop throwing out pollutants. I don't know if the town's aware of this, but as of January 1st, New York State law requires that all electronic devices, laptops, computers, be recycled. I know that Sandy 6 near me, I've seen them pick up TVs and stereo equipment this year from my neighbors. But I think it's a good idea because there's a lot of dangerous chemicals. But the idea, what I'm saying is to talk about an intermunicipal agreement. You should have an intermunicipal agreement with all the sanitation districts within the town, so people know they may live in Sandy 6, but they should be able, if they live closer to another sanitation disposal site, they should know about that, so they don't have to drive a long distance. They know where the closest one is. They could drop off these electronic items, at their convenience. But the important thing is these little, special dish.
They could go to America Sanitation Yard, and also, of course, we were the first government on Long Island to do e-cycling.
I think it's a great idea, and I think I told you so back in 2010.
The e-cycle is mailed town-wide. It's a town-wide event.
Now, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, what people don't know is I do get your mailing about the e-cycling, and I remember I drove all the way to Baldwin, and I was really encouraged to see that I had to actually wait online. I thought there'd be nobody there, and I actually had to wait 20 minutes, the line of cars to dispose of their electronic devices. I think that's great. But Baldwin's a long way from me. It's not really convenient if I have a couple laptops to dispose of, or printers. It'd be nice that, Sandy 6 did let us know in one brochure that they do have recycling now, but it's not widely known. Just go, if,
Everyone could use ours, whether you're in the center.
oh yeah, I understand, but the thing is, what I'm just saying is, make sure that people are aware of this intermunicipal agreement should be made transparent to all residents. I don't think people are really aware of it. Like I said, I saw Sandy 6.
That was the point, we sent a mailing to every resident.
Yeah.
I understand, but
But
I
that
think
is
it's,
the e-cycling mentions that
So every
you
resident
can
gets
pick
a-
up if they want.
yeah, I understand, but like I said, but you're not, despite the mailing, Sandy 6 should know not to pick up electronic devices and put it in the back of regular garbage. I mean, that people have to know that they don't put out electronics if they're doing it. I can see, I walk my kids to school every day.
Make that suggestion to the commissioners of consent.
Oh, I will, but the thing is, what needs to be done is more than that. It needs to, you as town supervisor should make it to all the Sandy special districts in the town of Hempstead, town-wide, so it's well known that we have this program, and it's an intermunicipal agreement between all the sanitation districts, independent and non-independent, and the town of Hempstead. I am going to give Mr. Sparazio a call on 76 and let him know about this, because what I've seen, and I've done that on many occasions, I see people throw out tires, and there people are picking up tires, which they're not supposed to do.
But then they don't come into it. The sanitary districts know the law, and then it's up to them to not come into it.
I understand, but they are still doing it.
You see them come into it?
I've seen them putting tires in the back of a sanitation truck. I've let them know about this. But I think that you have to, the residents of it, I think the residents don't get enough of this. Maybe if you send one this big.
We should send more mailings?
No. Nothing on this scale, Ms. Snyder. Nothing on this scale. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other requests for administrative elements.
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino.
With the exception of item 16, I'm going to recuse myself.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mazursky. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney. Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Mazursky. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino. Councilman King Sweeney.
The formal portion of the meeting is over. We do have a couple of residents. Doug, is my typo? Sorry.
My name is Donna Tyson, 162 Queen Street, Delaware, New York. The afternoon, first of all, I would like to apologize for the late. First time.
No need to apologize whatsoever. I was glad you had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Patrick.
Yes, and she has agreed to,
Are you having a meeting this morning?
she has agreed to come with me to the animal shelter to go over and witness certain things herself. Different recreation and surgery. So we will go over that and very briefly she's my issues with the animal shelter are there are no real regulations. I walk in there, and I've been there since September with the determination to adopt a German Shepherd, which one had passed on. I filled out the application. They had told me they would call, but there was one going to see it, and I was kind of disturbed that it was separate from the dogs, and I was told it was going to be euthanized. I said, I would take it. I said, let me check to see what the problem is. And he said, they did someone. And their stories come to each person tells a different story about some
brought up the German Shepherd since I'm 5 years old. And I thought it was a local to that lane. Purple Heart, and that's all he had, was one German Shepherd, and that died. So I'm home experience with that type of breed. And when I saw the dog, I was surprised to show no affection. The only thing I could conceive about the dog was perhaps the person was in the wrong to take it home in the first place. The dog was even to me, the dog. I saw no aggression when I put my hand up like that. And you can pick it up his home. He don't work with that with his finger there. I asked him, you know, the dog was taking the dog out before, he did not. I saw no aggression. And when I thought to it, the guy probably kept stealing it. And they have it up. And I was told to euthanize. Now, this was the second dog that I had heard to be euthanized, so that was disturbing. But the thing is, they seem to change their regulations. When I go there, it's one story for about, I saw 7 dogs since September, all German Shepherds. But I have yet to get one. And they keep constantly changing. Well, yeah, this is one story, it's that one. But they don't take into consideration when it comes to doing stories. But it's not my cat, first of all. It's like, oh, well, it has a cat. It has a Russian towards cats. And now I'm explaining, well, it's not my cat, the story is one. 3 applications since September. I thought from originally they told me 1 application to be written. Since then I've written 2 additional. I've done 7 doors. And then they tell me it has to be a match. I'm not there for match.com. I'm there because I genuinely want to get a German Shepherd dog. First I put them down there up to 2 years old and then there before. Since then, on each application, it has changed. I lost my care. And I was willing to take a female, 6 years old, a sick dog. Whatever German Shepherd they had, and they've had 7 since September. September, October, November, December, January, within 5 months.
Ms. Tyler, I don't know what to, know what to say, other than I apologize for, the period of time that you've been looking for a German Shepherd.
But then they say they're giving it to someone else, or, my circumstance will be different from hers.
Sure.
She may not have owned a German Shepherd. I'm experienced. You're going to tell me, German Shepherd won't get along with a cat. I've had 2 cats. One before I took out German Shepherd. Trump to a shelter in 2002. It went to a bad dog, and back then you did not have this Match.com. Match up dogs. I took in a stray dog and trained it to a cool, heavy prey, aggressive, jumping on fences, that it terrorized backyard neighbors. I trained the dog not to jump on the fence by saying, no bushes. Bushes are in front of the fence, so obviously if there's no bushes, he won't be jumping on the fence.
Ms. Tyler, I'm sure you would agree, bottom line is, the goal of the shelter is to not only adopt away all of our dogs and cats, of course, but to make the best, the best match that we can without using that Match.com analogy, but, so that, and that's why we do have there is a room in the shelter, we encourage.
They didn't let me go.
Well,
I would ask them to be even for a dog that wasn't interested in Rottweiler, based on the director who said, well, what about Rex? He was a Rottweiler. And I thought, I gave it a couple of days, I gave it to her. I thought, well, you know what? Dog's been there for a while. I'll give it a consideration. When I went back to see the dog he recommended, they would let me see it. Now, this is where the regulations switch and change, the regulations tell me what. So, and do I have to build my own tent outside? Because now it's first come, first served. I've been there every week. You see that sign, you know me by name. They actually say my name when I go.
Ms. Tyler, as I say, without getting into the specifics of of your interaction with the shelter. Bottom line is, first I would love to, and I'm sure my colleagues too would love to see you have a successful match with one of our.
Well, you can say match, that's a problem. That's another problem. How do you match up? Because I would go there based on the direction said to see Rex. Wasn't sure I wanted to adopt or not, it's adopted. But I would like to have a really good people.
Well, we do have an adoption council, we have a behavioral.
That's another thing that she needs to be looked into. I believe she got that based on friendship and not based on merit. There is a tall black man who works there, who's been there, I've seen for years, who actually, I asked him to get the dogs out, because he's a strong man, rather than someone like, oh, holding and that. He is better than he's actually the one who is man there, well, he knows the dog. And he actually told me he is waiting for the test, and and I know that was based on friendship that this other one got, because Laura, who I originally met, left, and then I spoke with the behavior, and when she said, oh, I said, she said, a certain dog needed to be cat, be assessed for cats. And I had asked her to see what her qualifications are. Well, what school did you go to? And she didn't. Well, are you certified? No. And then she seemed to catch attitude and ran out of the room. And my head well, I wasn't then. She told me Laura was a friend. That's what she said.
I don't know about any of these conversations, but bottom line is, I'm sorry that you've had a travail, but I think the best solution would be for you to
go with
with Ms. Petrie, absolutely. And let's see if we can't resolve this. As I say, bottom line is we'd love to see you.
Well, the bottom line is it should be match.com. It should be. I mean, they do have the adoption thing in Hempstead. But what is their adoption length time before you get? People seem to be getting before me, and I was told
it's very individualistic. Just like every dog and cat is different, has a different personality. It's an individualistic kind of.
But how do they pick their behavior? Their behavior person. How is that picked? How is that? That must be changed. I really believe in this friendship. How did you get it?
I don't know, because I don't even know the dog you're referring to.
No, it's not regarding me, it's not regarding your dog, it's based on her. How did she get the qualifications to get the dog?
I don't even know who you're talking about, ma'am.
Her name is Laura.
And we're not going to talk about, specific employees, specific
she told me Laura was her friend. I asked her what school was this.
All I can tell you is that there's going to be a resolution, but not here and not today. It will be with Ms. Petrie. And again, I extend my apologies for the travails that you have gone through, and I certainly hope that we can have a very happy, successful resolution.
I hope so, because I see you there every time I go on holiday. That was every time. I was very pleased to see you, shake your hand. I think it's a wonderful job. I think the board up here to make decisions is a great opportunity for other people to voice their opinions.
Absolutely.
That's what I'd like to see more done.
Okay. Well, Ms. Senator, I certainly hope you can achieve a happy resolution.
I hope I can replace my dog that I did get from me.
Wonderful, and I certainly hope that happens. All right, thank you. I know today's been a long day, so you've waited a long time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
What I want to talk about after that is the fact that she mentioned she wanted to adopt 2 dogs that were killed. Those dogs are dead, forever, killed. And she was willing to give them a home. That's the part that I find so appalling here. Because this is what we keep trying to tell you. Ms. Gooseby, how come you don't care anymore? 4 years ago, you were very helpful in getting the right director in that shelter. You know, I have news articles that say how you wanted to form this committee and you pushed for a person who had background in no-kill shelters and who came from adoption centers. You can't call this place an adoption center when you are killing animals.
Don't say that I don't care.
You didn't seem to be paying attention to this woman speaking, and we have been up here every month saying that this person, Mike Pistori, is bringing your shelter down. He is not running this like an adoption center. He is running this like a high-kill shelter, which he came from. And his only experience, it was a glorified animal control officer. He never ran a shelter. He never ran anything that was an adoption center or no-kill facility. He has no background in that. And just looking at some of the new policies and procedures that he bragged to us about putting through just a couple of months ago, there's all the signs that this is turning into one of the highest kill shelters on Long Island, if it's not already. These kind of policies and procedures are not put in place from people who are looking to keep their kill numbers down. And I will point them each out to you in every single town board meeting, but there's not enough time to go through that. So even though we've sat down with private meetings with Cheryl Petrie and tried to tell her, she's ignored us completely, the town board ignores us completely. You know, why? Why won't the town board listen to us? Is it because Cheryl Petrie was such a great judge of character 4 years ago when she made the decision with the town attorneys to throw us out and ban us? When we were the best thing that you had in the town of Hempstead 4 years ago? So fine, now we're out, now we're gone. Somebody's got to do this job. You can't keep killing animals. And the procedures that are in place, not allowing people, your photo policy, you're not taking pictures of animals that are unadoptable. Well, guess what? That's what you're supposed to be rescuing. That's what you're supposed to be saving. Unadoptable. And you're not allowing people to take pictures? That's the first sign of a kill shelter. And your euthanasia policy is appalling. I would love to post this thing and send this out, a cross post to every single rescuer on Long Island. And just recently, I had the honor of meeting with some of the best rescuers on Long Island at a good friend's funeral. And as soon as people see us, the first thing they talk about is the town of Hempstead. And your reputation is going so down so fast. And we keep trying to tell you, you have some new members of the board here. I really hope you understand what we're saying. Because in this day and age, this is not acceptable.
Diane Madden.
What I'd like to point out immediately about this photo policy of Michael Pistori's is that I'd like you to keep in mind that historically, there's never been a photo policy at the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter. They were smart enough that they realized that's a violation of freedoms, and that to have a director come in and start obstructing adoptions, where in his own policy reads, no kennel photos. A sad photo can oftentimes help increase adoptions, but do not photograph dogs inside their kennels. That is how you save animals, by being honest, by saying that they've been here for a long time, that they're living behind bars, that they need a second chance. Mike Pistori comes in there, and the policies that we're reading are that of a kill shelter. And yet he's trying to, at the same time, protect that image by dictating to volunteers what kind of photos they can and can't take. It's a big problem. It's a big problem when you come into an animal shelter that's never had a photo policy, and you start obstructing opportunities for animals to get saved, and you start denying experienced, qualified German Shepherd adopters from adopting a shepherd, 2 of them, and then proceeding to kill that animal. I think the town board has a duty here to review these policies, and while we are working very hard on a privatization presentation, which I hope will have your attention on, because I don't see any other solution. There's nothing we would have liked more than to try to partner, try to find a happy medium to make sure that the hiring is the way it began when Councilwoman, you were involved. I would like to know that as well. How come you're not taking an active role in what's going on with the hiring of the assistant director? The last director, at that point, had interviewed people from outside the state, across the country, to make sure that the best outsiders, no kill-minded people were brought in there. Because when you bring in the right people, things fall into place. Good things happen. The sign-in book goes away. They don't have that feel of visiting a prison. The door is unlocked, so the public can come in and out freely as they do in any other adoption center. What has Michael Pastore done? He's locked the door. He has a sign-in sheet again. It's going back to the day where we used to protest and have vigils outside that shelter. I mean, is that really necessary? Is it necessary to start hosting vigils outside the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter? Are you going to take a hands-on position here? Lucille reminded me, you were very active in finding the leech management positions. Pastore is interviewing insiders having no leadership, no management experience. Whose duty is that? It's unacceptable to go back to human resources way of doing things. In civil service, that's fine if they have to proceed with that procedure once they are in there as acting director, acting assistant director, acting behaviorist. Mike Pastore is the very reason, and according to the people that have left, that have felt pushed out, that's why they left, because they recognize that this shelter is going backwards. Can you answer that? Will you be getting involved again in the interviewing of these assistant directors or behaviorists or these lead positions? I'm asking you, Councilwoman.
I'm not, because I've been accused of not liking animals, so I don't want to say anything that can be misinterpreted. So I will do what I need to do, but I will not answer, give you a straight answer, because I already been told I do not like animals. I have to have animals.
You're an elected official. All I need to do is hear that you are going to do what you need to do, because that will be very appreciated.
Go ahead with your comments. This is not, it's not appropriate for the board. Go ahead with your comments.
Excuse me? I'm here to speak to the board.
Fine. And it's not a question and answer session. Go ahead with your comments.
It needs to be a question and answer session. I have a question about the links that we've been asking for years now on the shelter's Facebook page. There are still no links to the volunteer application, to the foster care application, to the Lost and Found, and to the buddy program.
There are links on those that send it right back to the town Hempstead page that has all the links.
It doesn't define where you can find links. What the person that's running that page is very eager to talk about these programs, but there are no posts, there are no links to lead you to a volunteer application or a foster care application or lost and found information or the buddy program for departments that the town brags about. There are direct links? No. There are direct links to the volunteer application. You can go to a spot on that page and click to a volunteer.
Click the link that takes you back to the town site that has the list right there.
There's no way, there's nothing on that page that indicates where someone can find a volunteer application.
I know that it's limited to how much data you can put on those pages, but I believe that it's been done.
It's not done, I just checked this morning. The internal investigation that was being conducted inside about the documents that we viewed that had been changed, is that still an ongoing investigation?
Is the district attorney investigation on
Is the district attorney investigation ongoing, is that what you said? The photo policy. Yeah, certainly. This photo policy, I'm just wondering if this is something that volunteers are asked to sign separately, if this is put with the volunteer application, how is this violation being promoted?
First of all, there's no violation of anyone's right to take pictures. Employees are asked and told as an employee that they're to follow the policy. The policy is based on studies and suggestions from other animal shelters associations that showing the animals in a positive light makes them more adoptable, that the presence that they make makes it more likely for them to be adopted. And that's why the policy was instituted. And as I specifically informed you in a conversation that no member of the public is ever stopped from taking photos, they are asked to abide by the policy. The policy will be explained to them, but no one has ever been stopped from taking a photo of an animal in that shelter. And I told you that.
And I'm not talking about the public. I would hope the public is not, there's an obstruction there for public photos. And the comparison you're making is to no-kill shelters, not to kill shelters. You need to make every way out possible for animals in a shelter, specifically where Mr. Pastore himself has stated in a policy that animals are killed for lack of space.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
No,
No one else?
I'm on the schedule.
Go ahead.
No, it's on my slip, that Ms. Murray
Go
called.
ahead.
Last year, the town of Hempstead passed a bond referendum for a vet van. Has the town purchased the vet van?
The question is,
Yes, we purchased the van.
and the answer is yes.
You have purchased it? Did you issue the bonds for the van? Or did you buy it cash?
Mr. Khan?
It was part of the capital, part of the capital program, and I believe we're taking, that it's due to be delivered in the month of February. It's here.
Mr. Conway, we get the question. You heard the question?
Yeah, I did, Councilman. It was part of the 2014 capital plan. Upon purchase, we will draw proceeds down. Yes, to answer your question, Mr. Prakash, it will be bonded.
Okay, but the bonds haven't been issued.
Not as of yet.
Okay. Is it possible to obtain an electronic report of all the animals in the shelter? A pet point system?
Is that something that exists or is?
Point system, I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, I think we
I
need.
believe they use a
think we
color,
need
I believe
clarification
they use
for
a
that.
color system.
I'd like to get, in a FOIL request, I'd like to FOIL an electronic record as opposed to a paper record of all the animals in the shelter. I just wanted to check with you first if there's, 'cause you reject if I'm using. Have the bonds been issued to purchase the Cherry Valley ball fields in the Sanitary District 6 parking lot yet?
Mr. Conroy?
Yes, they have.
They have been issued?
They have been issued.
Mr. Ra, as the ethics...
Mr. Koch, you address your question
Okay.
to the chair, and I will determine.
Okay. But, okay, I'm speaking to the ethics office of the town board. Should a board member recuse himself from voting on a town contract when the company receiving the contract does business with his campaign committee and contributes to his campaign? Should that be disclosed?
Well, we're not going to address hypothetical questions.
Okay. Okay, so Vigilant Consulting has done, from the records I have here, at least $55,000 worth of work for citizens of Santino. And he's also contributed, what I could see, $3,000 to Citizens for Santino, and has received contracts upwards of between $45,000 and I think up to $70,000 a year in the last 4 years. Should that be disclosed in resolutions?
Mr. Pagazzi, you're more than welcome to put that question in writing and to the appropriate authority in the town, and it will be addressed.
Well, Mr. Rod is the ethics officer, is that correct?
You're very welcome to put the specific question in writing.
Okay. What does Christopher Shelton do for the town of Hempstead, the owner of Vigilant Consulting?
He is the fire service liaison for the town of Hempstead, and accordingly deals with all the various environmental issues that come to, that involve interaction between the town of Hempstead and various fire departments, fire districts, village fire departments. He negotiates the contracts with all of the various fire protection districts, which are districts for which there are no, for which the town board are the commissioners of the districts, and then we contract with neighboring fire departments, be it village or commissioner district fire department to provide fire protection. So it's a rather detailed, all-encompassing job that requires a great deal of experience in fire management.
Sure. I foiled the records for the last 4 years, going back to 2007. Early in those years, the first few years, he used to give detailed invoices that specifies he got paid 2 hours for this, 3 hours for that. Now it's simply, I guess, a check written every month, and at least according to the comptroller's office, there is no invoices within those proof of claims, I guess you call them. He gets paid to march in a parade, to attend ceremonies. Is that something that the town should be paying for?
I already answered the question as to what the duties of that individual
Sure. But yeah, marching in the parade and getting paid $70 to $100 an hour seems like a poor use of taxpayer money. How long has Mr. Shelton's companies worked for the town of Hempstead?
I don't have that information.
So
Okay.
I have-
I'm sure that's something you can pull up.
Well, I have to give a year. Who worked in his position prior to Mr. Shelton? Who worked as, so apparently I could get only records going back 2007 or so. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.